guys, and welcome to a brand new Just Another Gaming Side gameplay feature. I'm the captain, and today we've got with us Anno 2205. We managed to get our hands on an early preview copy so we can show you some parts of the game, but the full version's only going to be out on November 3rd of this year, and we'll bring you the full thing closer to that time. But for now, here's a preview of what the game has to offer. In Anno 2205, you're the CEO of an up-and-coming corporation that must compete with the Big Five, already established corporations that have monopolized production within their sectors. And your end goal is to create and fund your own space program in order to get to the moon to harvest resources there to help with the energy crisis back on Earth. Now in Anno 2205, unlike previous games in the franchise, you have multiple sectors to colonize and manage at the same time. You start off with a strategic map which lets you pick your starting zone, and from there on in, once you have the money, you can hop in and out of any sector you have the rights to go into, and then therefore creating your supply chains and trade routes in order to fund your eventual space program, which eventually will unlock the lunar sector, which is the end goal. Now, as Anno franchise veterans would know, you start off with basic workers with basic requirements and basic buildings. But now as the population grows, so do their needs, and once those are fulfilled, they get upgraded to a different class, or in this case, they get promoted. Now once they get promoted, of course, their output increases, thereby boosting your economy, but so do their needs. They require more complex items from higher quality buildings, different resources, and whatnot. Now what's really interesting is that this is where the different sectors come into play. Not only are they different areas and maps for you to focus on, but they've got unique resources that they can produce. And the workers that work there have their own requirements that are different. So for example, once you have achieved enough in the temperate zone and the Arctic zone is unlocked for you, your workers' requirements there would actually have to be met initially by resources from your temperate zone. So you're going to have to start up some trade routes, sending surplus resources from your temperate sector into your Arctic sector, and goods they produce there will come back to the factories in the temperate sector to be turned into final goods that will fund your space program. Now something I found really interesting about the Arctic zone is how they made it unique. Because of the frigid environment you're dealing with, the residential areas need some sort of heat which is only produced by your production buildings. So in fact, unlike what you would do in regular sectors, the Arctic sector needs residential areas built around the production buildings in order to absorb that heat, which is one of the basic requirements for them to grow. As with most Anno games, you keep running into different factions every now and then, and they have strange requests or missions which you can complete for some bonus goods. Now most of the times these are either credits or there's a special tier of items that can only be achieved or procured through these missions that help you create the modules for most of your resource gathering buildings to increase their output as opposed to creating a whole new building altogether. So now these missions can be simple fetch quests, or they might require you to go into a bit of light combat or do some exploring, but they're pretty straightforward and they can be quite rewarding and are essential if you want to grow your colony efficiently. Now my personal favorite feature about Anno 2205 is how they have completely separated the combat from the main gameplay. Earlier, other colonies could attack you and that would really fuck shit up, and I hated that about my game because I just wanted to manage my resources, build an efficient base, and just go about my thing without having to worry about the combat. Well, now you can do that. Now there are completely optional sectors called crisis sectors in which you can go into for combat missions. Now these are usually naval missions, and you can even upgrade your ships for a certain cost. The best thing about these missions is they're a good way of procuring those tier 3 or those special tier items that you need for your modules for your production buildings. Now the great thing about the combat is it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel like an afterthought. It's a fun little aspect of the game that isn't at all forced upon you, but it's a great way of procuring those resources that you so desperately need for your base modules. Now, because this was a preview version of the game and not the full version, we only had access to the temperate and the Arctic zones, and there are some parts I'm not allowed to talk about, and the game cuts off right before we go after the moon. But it was enough to give me a good idea of the game, and I can safely say this is definitely the easiest Anno game to get hold of. Because I remember most Anno games have a steep learning curve, but I was never uncomfortable throughout my 10-12 hours I spent on the preview, and I think a lot of newcomers will find it extremely welcoming. Even though the Anno franchise can look intimidating, this is anything but. The game's visuals and performance are absolutely stunning. It ran smooth on max settings on my G1 Gaming GTX 970 system. However, during cutscenes, which aren't that often, so don't worry, it did drop some frames. But then again, as I mentioned, this isn't the final build of the game. This is just a preview version, so it's a step up from what was playable at the various expos and events, and is as close as you're going to get to the final build. But there is still work they're doing. They're changing UIs and some performance aspects of the game, so I wouldn't worry too much. As of now, Anno 2205 looks extremely promising. It is enjoyable. However, at this point, I have no idea how or what the multiplayer component of the game is going to be. But if it's that single player experience you're looking for, the multiple sectors, the different combat away from the main core gameplay of Anno 2205 is sure to be extremely inviting, and I thoroughly enjoyed this preview and I'm looking forward to the full version. So this has been a Just Another Gaming Site gameplay feature on Anno 2205 with the preview build. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you sat through the whole thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to our channel for more content, and of course the final version of this game. We'll do some videos then. This is the Captain from Just Another Gaming Site.